Your bedroom isn't making you tired, it's keeping you tired. The clutter you stopped noticing years ago is still costing you energy every single night. The doorway you rush through without pausing is quietly shaping your nervous system. The empty wall you keep meaning to fill with something might be the one thing in your home actually working. And the habit that could calm your mind the fastest isn't a meditation app or a morning routine. It's something so small you've probably walked past it 1,000 times without knowing what it was doing to you. By the end of this video, you'll understand 12 of these hidden patterns, drawn from Japanese homes, traditions, and daily rituals. And stick around for the final one, because it isn't really a habit at all. It's a 2-minute test you can run on your own home tonight, and once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. There's a specific kind of tired that has nothing to do with sleep. You wake up, you didn't stay up late, you didn't drink too much coffee, and still by 9 in the morning, something in you already feels depleted. Not physically, just worn thin, like your attention has been leaking out of a hole you can't find. Most people blame this on stress, on work, on notifications, and sure, those play a part, but a quieter cause is often hiding in plain sight, in the design of the spaces we live in, and the rhythm or lack of rhythm in our days. Japan has spent centuries refining small domestic practices that, almost as a side effect, calm the nervous system, not through willpower, through environment and repetition. We're not saying these habits belong to every household in Japan, or that there's some kind of secret only one culture has access to. Many Japanese homes carry these ideas forward in different ways, shaped by region, generation, and personal taste. But the underlying psychology behind them is universal, and once you understand why they work, you can start borrowing pieces of them immediately, wherever you live. Let's start with the easiest one, the one you can test tonight before you've even finished watching. The genkan pause. Walk into almost any home in Japan and you'll hit a small sunken step just past the front door. This is the genkan, the entryway, and it exists for one clear purpose: to physically separate outside from inside. Shoes come off here. Bags get set down here, and for a few seconds before stepping up into the home, there's a pause. Most homes in the West skip this transition entirely. You walk from the street directly onto your living room carpet, phone still in hand, mind still at work, shoes tracking in the entire emotional residue of your day. Here's the psychology. Your brain uses environmental cues to know which mode it should be in. This is called context-dependent state switching. Without a clear boundary, your nervous system never gets the signal that says the outside world has ended. You end up carrying office stress, traffic stress, and social stress straight into the one place meant to be your refuge. You've probably never noticed this happening, but your body has. Every evening, it's been waiting for a signal to downshift, and you've been walking straight past it. The practical shift is almost embarrassingly simple. Create one deliberate pause at your door. Take off your shoes. Set your bag in the same spot every time. Even 5 seconds of stillness there sends your nervous system a message. You have arrived. Home stops being a location and starts being a state of mind. But the next habit is even more surprising because it isn't about adding anything to your home. It's about what you're brave enough to remove. Danshari, deciding what deserves to stay. Danshari is a philosophy built from 3 characters: refuse, dispose, separate. It's often mistaken for simple decluttering, but it goes deeper than that. Danshari isn't about a spotless house. It's about breaking your attachment to things that no longer serve who you are becoming.
Picture your junk drawer or that closet shelf you avoid opening. Every object in there is, in a small way, asking something of your brain, a tiny, quiet request for attention, decision, or guilt. You don't consciously register it, but decision fatigue is cumulative, and clutter is one of its most common invisible sources. One traditional perspective within this practice is to ask, before keeping anything, whether it still fits the life you are living now, not the life you used to live or hoped to live. That single reframe changes the entire emotional weight of an object. We all have a version of this: the someday box, the drawer of cables for devices we no longer own, the shirt from 10 years ago we're still not ready to let go of. Your brain quietly notices every one of these things every time you walk past them, even if you never open your eyes to look. Try this tonight. Pick one drawer, and one drawer only, and remove anything that no longer belongs to who you are right now. Not the whole house, just one drawer. The relief you feel afterward is really not about the drawer at all. It's your mind exhaling. And once you start noticing what clutter does to your attention, you'll start noticing what its opposite does too. Which brings us to a concept almost impossible to translate into English.
3. Ma, the power of empty space. There's a word in Japanese design with no direct English equivalent. Ma. Loosely, it means the meaningful pause between things, the empty space in a room, the silence between notes and music, the gap between two objects on a shelf. In most modern homes, empty space feels like a problem to solve. A blank wall needs art, an open shelf needs decoration, silence needs to be filled with a podcast or a show playing in the background. We treat emptiness as unfinished. But visual noise has a measurable cost. Every object in your visual field requires a small amount of processing from your brain, even ones you're not consciously looking at. A room packed with stimulation is a room that never lets your attention fully rest, even when you're sitting still. Ma treats emptiness as an active ingredient, not an absence. The gap isn't nothing, it's what allows the rest of the room to be perceived clearly, the way a pause in a sentence gives the words around it more weight. This is the moment where most people realize why their cozy, full living room somehow never feels relaxing. It's not cozy, it's loud, just silently. The shift here doesn't require throwing everything out. It just requires leaving one surface, one wall, or one shelf intentionally bare, and resisting the urge to fill it. Let your eyes have somewhere to rest. Now, the next idea isn't about your home at all. It's about how you experience the people and moments already inside it, and it might be the most quietly emotional concept in this entire video. 4. Ichigo Ichie. One time, one meeting. Ichigo Ichie originates from the tea ceremony tradition and translates roughly to one time, one meeting. It's the understanding that this exact moment, this cup of tea, this conversation, this gathering will never happen again in precisely this way, even if the same people meet tomorrow. Think about how many dinners you've eaten while scrolling, how many conversations you've half listened to while planning what to say next, or thinking about an email. We move through ordinary moments assuming there will always be another one just like it. Psychologically, this constant future orientation is one of the biggest drivers of low-grade anxiety. Your mind is never actually where your body is, and a mind that's never present can't fully relax because relaxation requires arrival, and you can't arrive somewhere you're not paying attention to. Ichigo Ichie asks you to treat ordinary moments as unrepeatable, not because something bad might happen, but because this version of right now, this specific evening, genuinely won't happen twice. You don't need a tea ceremony to practice this. You need one meal a day, phone away, where you actually taste the food and hear the people around you. That's it. That's the whole practice, and it does more for anxiety than almost anything on this list, because it interrupts the habit of living slightly ahead of your own life.
We've covered your entryway, your clutter, your empty space, and your presence. But the next habit touches something even more personal, the small shrine many homes keep, and what it reveals about the psychology of daily ritual.
5. The small home altar. In many Japanese households, a small shelf or shrine, sometimes a kamidana, sometimes a simpler family altar, holds a quiet, recurring place in daily life. A short pause here each morning, maybe an offering, maybe just a moment of acknowledgement. To an outside eye, it can look purely religious or ceremonial, but there's a behavioral mechanism underneath it that has nothing to do with belief: habit formation through fixed environmental anchors. Your brain builds routines faster when they're tied to a specific physical location. A dedicated spot for a small daily pause, even entirely secular, becomes a trigger your mind starts to recognize and settle into automatically. The same way a specific chair might make you want to read, or a certain mug might make you want to slow down. This is why habits attached to no physical space are so easy to abandon, and habits attached to a specific corner of your home are so much easier to keep. Your environment does half the discipline for you. You don't need a shrine. You need one small fixed spot, a windowsill, a shelf, a corner of a table reserved only for a brief daily pause, a breath, a short reflection. Nothing else happens there. Over time, that spot alone will start to calm you before you even sit down. But the next habit isn't about a fixed spot at all. It's about something most people actively resist: doing one thing slowly on purpose. 6. Single tasking as ritual. The tea ceremony, or chano-yu, is often described as beautiful and meditative, and it is, but underneath the aesthetics is something almost radical by modern standards. For the duration of the ceremony, exactly one thing is happening. Not two, not 3 tabs of attention split across a task. One motion, fully attended to, followed by the next. We've built entire lives around the opposite: eating while watching, listening while texting, walking while scrolling. Multitasking feels efficient, but the mind experiences it as fragmentation, and fragmented attention is strongly linked to elevated stress hormones, even when the tasks themselves are low stakes. Here's the part that surprises people. Single tasking isn't slower in any way that matters. It's just less scattered. And a less scattered mind is a calmer one, almost by definition. You don't need whisked matcha or a tatami room. Pick one ordinary task today: making coffee, folding laundry, washing dishes, and do only that with your full attention, start to finish. Notice how strange it feels at first. That strangeness is a sign of how rarely your mind gets to do just one thing. We're now halfway through this list, and the habits are about to shift. From here forward, we move from space and attention into something closer to identity, how the objects and imperfections around you are quietly shaping who you believe yourself to be. 7. Wabi-sabi and the relief of imperfection. Wabi-sabi is the appreciation of imperfect things, weathered, incomplete things, a cracked bowl repaired with visible gold seams, a wooden beam left with its natural grain instead of sanded smooth, a garden that's allowed to look slightly wild. Contrast that with the pressure most of us live under, the pursuit of a home, a body, a life that looks flawless, ideally photogenic, ideally impressive to people who will never actually visit. That pursuit has a psychological cost. Constant comparison to an unattainable standard keeps the brain in a low-level threat state, not the kind that makes your heart race, but the kind that quietly erodes contentment over months and years.
Wabi-sabi isn't laziness dressed up as philosophy, it's a deliberate rejection of the idea that only flawless things deserve to be kept or loved. A chipped mug can still hold your coffee, a slightly uneven shelf can still hold your books, and a life with visible cracks in it can still be one worth living fully. The shift here is a mental one more than a physical one. Stop hiding your home's and your life's small imperfections and start letting a few of them show. That worn armchair doesn't need replacing, it needs appreciating. The next habit takes this idea even further, into a tradition most people have heard of, but almost no one properly understands.
8. Osuji, the ritual of deep cleaning. Around the end of the year, many households in Japan take part in osuji, a thorough cleaning of the home meant to clear away the past year, not just the dust. It's not routine tidying, it's a symbolic reset. Regular cleaning maintains a space. Ritual cleaning does something psychologically different. It marks time. Human minds are deeply reliant on markers to process transitions. Without them, time feels like an undifferentiated blur, one week bleeding into the next with no sense of closure or renewal. This is part of why New Year's resolutions feel powerful for the first few days and then dissolve. There's often no physical, sensory ritual behind them. Osuji pairs the symbolic idea of starting fresh with the tangible act of scrubbing a floor or clearing a shelf, and that pairing is what makes the reset actually land in the body, not just the mind. You don't need to wait for December. Pick any meaningful date, a birthday, a season change, a Sunday, and give one full afternoon to a reset clean of a single room, not a quick tidy, a real clearing. Let it mark something. Now the habits are about to get quieter and more internal. The next one has nothing to do with cleaning and everything to do with how you carry your things through the world. 9. Furoshiki, choosing to carry less. Furoshiki is a traditional cloth used to wrap and carry items, gifts, lunch, groceries, instead of using disposable bags or bulky containers. One square of fabric folded differently depending on what it needs to hold. On the surface, this looks like an environmental habit. Underneath, it's a philosophy of restraint, choosing one flexible, reusable solution instead of accumulating one unique, single-use tool for every situation. This mirrors a mental pattern too. Many of us accumulate not just physical objects just in case, but commitments, subscriptions, obligations, each one small, each one reasonable on its own, and collectively overwhelming. The Furoshiki mindset asks a quieter question. Could one simple, adaptable solution replace 3 complicated ones? The goal isn't minimalism for its own sake. It's fewer decisions, less friction, and more room to breathe. We're entering the final stretch now, and these last few habits move away from the home almost entirely into something closer to how you spend your hours and understand your purpose. 10. Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing. Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is the practice of spending unhurried time among trees, not hiking for exercise, not photographing the view, just being present in a natural environment with no destination in mind. Research on this practice has found measurable reductions in cortisol and blood pressure after time spent this way, and part of the reason is something called attention restoration theory. Focused, directed attention, the kind you use at work, in traffic, on your phone, is a limited resource that depletes throughout the day. Natural environments, full of what researchers call soft fascination, let that directed attention recover almost automatically. You don't need a forest. You need unhurried, undirected time outside. A park, a tree-lined street, a quiet backyard, with no phone, no destination, no pace to keep. 10 minutes, no agenda, just noticing. The next habit is the one most people skip, mostly because it sounds too obvious to matter. It matters more than almost anything else on this list.
rising with the light. Many traditional Japanese daily rhythms are built around early rising, often paired with a brief, quiet activity before the day's obligations begin. A short walk, a cup of tea, a few minutes of stillness before speech. Modern mornings, for most of us, start in a completely different way. Alarm, phone, notifications, immediate demand. Before your feet have even touched the floor, your nervous system has already been asked to respond to dozens of other people's priorities. This matters because your cortisol naturally peaks shortly after waking. It's called the cortisol awakening response, and it's a normal part of alertness. But flooding that already heightened state with urgent stimulation compounds it, training your brain to associate the very first moments of consciousness with demand and reactivity. A quiet buffer between waking and obligation, even 5 unhurried minutes before checking your phone, gives that natural cortisol spike somewhere calm to land, instead of somewhere chaotic. The shift is simple to state and genuinely hard to keep. Delay your phone by just 5 minutes after waking. Let your first thoughts belong to you before they belong to anyone else. And now, the final habit, the one that ties every single idea in this video together and quietly explains why some people seem to move through life with a kind of steadiness the rest of us are chasing. Ikigai, the reason you get up. Ikigai is often translated as a reason for being, though no single English phrase fully captures it. It's the quiet intersection of what you're good at, what you love, what the world around you needs, and what gives your days a sense of worth. Anxiety at its root is often less about any single stressor and more about a lack of felt direction, a sense that your days are happening to you rather than because of you. Ikigai isn't a 5-year plan or career choice. It can be something as modest as tending a garden, mentoring someone younger, or simply showing up reliably for people who matter to you. This is the idea every other habit on this list has been quietly building toward. A calm entryway, a decluttered drawer, a mindful cup of tea. None of it holds much weight without a sense of why you're building a calmer life in the first place. The practical shift here isn't a task. It's a question, one worth sitting with rather than answering instantly. What is one small thing, however modest, that gives your ordinary days a sense of purpose? You don't need the full answer today. You just need to start asking.
Here's the framework I promised at the start. Call it the Quiet Home Test. 3 questions, take 2 minutes, walk through your space right now if you can. First, where in this home do I pause, even briefly, before entering? If the answer is nowhere, that's your genkan moment, a boundary worth creating. Second, is there one surface, one shelf, one wall left intentionally empty? If everything is filled, that's your ma moment, space your eyes never get to rest in. Third, is there one object here I'm keeping out of guilt rather than love? If yes, that's your Danshari moment, permission to let it go. 3 questions, 2 minutes, and somewhere in your answers is exactly which habit from this video your home is asking you to try first. None of these ideas require you to move to Japan, renovate your home, or overhaul your personality by next Tuesday. They're small, almost suspiciously small, but that's exactly the point. Anxiety rarely arrives through one enormous event. It builds quietly, through 100 tiny frictions we stopped noticing years ago, which means it can also leave the same way, one small, deliberate habit at a time. So don't try all 12 tonight. Pick one, the genkan pause, the empty shelf, the 5 quiet minutes before your phone. Just one, and let it work on you for a week before you reach for the next. I'd love to know, which of these 12 surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. I read every one of them. And if this kind of quiet, intentional living is something you want more of, consider staying a while longer. There's more waiting for you here at Quiet Japan Living.